So I'll start and then we'll move it to
I was
two
just
questions.
saying, people ask, why one person crew and so long credits? We can talk about that.
If you want. My question is, when you first talked to me about this film, which is, I believe, a little bit over 4 years ago, it was always about coming in from high.
You read the first treatment.
Yeah,
2
I read the
pages.
first treatment, but it was always about coming in from the sky, and the elements have an unusual importance in these films. And tell me, why did you approach it from the sky and from the clouds, and also how the elements are playing our characters themselves?
Well, when I started this film, I went to Naples as a tourist many times, just passing by and stay 2-3 days. And then a friend of mine, Pietro Marcello, he kind of opened the door and said, I think you should make a film. in
Pietro
Naples."
Marcello is from Naples, and he's a filmmaker, and he did Martin Eden, which many of you have seen.
And now Duze. And so, Naples is such a intimate place. It's like so difficult to perceive. And with this film, I think I wanted to give to Naples the complexity of that city. And when Pietro told me that, I was promoting my film Notturno there, and I started watching the city in a completely different way. I stayed a bit longer. And then what struck me so strong, it was the sense of time that that city has. And it's almost like a territory, a zone of passage that holds constantly the present, the past, and the future. And I wanted to make, I said, I want to make a film about time, which is a quite abstract concept. And the vertical time that doesn't destroy, but create this constant verticality, this constant sense of stratification. And this was for me the grabbing point of this. Would I be able to make a film like that? And then this has to be a film that goes from the sky to the sea to under the earth. It has to have this constant element of changing. Of course, my dream, it was to shoot at the beginning with the Mongolfiera.
Air balloon.
Air balloon. With an air balloon, because air balloon is the most fantastic. Now everybody shoot with drone. And I think drone should be forbidden, because drone is a military things. So filmmakers should not use drone. It used to be helicopter. I try with helicopters. You have to be really, really incredibly good to shoot with helicopter, because stability things. You have to be just do that all your life, like underwater photography. It's like very specific. But my dream was to shoot, like I was able to do that in one of my films in Sacro. And the beauty of the balloon is like it feels that the earth is moving, because it moves so slow. And then you have the earth that moves. This is a fantastic feeling, and that's what my dream was. But then when I ask, how is it? There's no way, because you have to land somewhere with your things, and there's no landing space around Naples. So they told me, you're gonna end up in Emilia Romagna and Bologna, if you start shooting with the thing. So I moved that, and then I had to find a location where I had that feeling. And that my assistant, he was at the beginning my scouting location. I don't like to use the word manager, my scouting location person of trust. And he brought me in the top of this mountain, which was the highest point. And there I saw everything. I saw the space was on the other side of Naples. And you see that shot where the below sea level is. And then from that place, I was able to film all the clouds, the things, and give a space. And once I shot, I find that space, and then I have to find the people that were somehow holding the depth of that space.
And I think this is a very important part of your filmmaking. And how do you find the people?
I find the people because I know that there is some for documentaries. You have to believe on the gods of documentaries. I don't like to write anything. I don't like to write before. My mentor Charles Bowden used to tell me that if you write, he used to be a heavy smoker, but he used matches always. And he said, if you write something that is longer than the space of a match box, you start with a lie. So this for me has been a very strong thing. It's like I don't like to write. How can I write a film, about a documentary in my desk, in my room? It's impossible. I have to go through this long process, this journey. And this journey, the time of my film is the time of encounter with people. And how do you meet people? For me, it's something extremely immediate. It's like Calvino used to say that truth, it's something that passed by you and oblige you to turn, and the moment you turn, it's gone. And that's what it is. It's that moment that makes you turn and you fall in love with something. It's like, boom, it's there, and that's the person I want to feel. And this became an enormous tragedy also, because from that moment, this person that you never met before becomes part of your life, and you become part of his life. And the big word here is trust. You know, you have to create this element of trust, and element of understanding when to shoot, what to shoot, why shooting that. And for me, it's important that once I put the camera there, and once I choose the people that are part of the film, I'm gonna carry them till the end. You know, I never left anyone out of my movie, because then become like a journey, and becomes a way for me to understand where the film is going. And that's the process for me. It's like there's an encounter with Titi, with the prosecutor, with Maria, with the file department, with Aboud on this Syrian ship, you know, that brings the war, something that is off screen. He brings the war inside Naples. So these all elements are so strong, and you have to immediately be part of that and be extremely loyal and ethical also towards that. And for me, you know, I don't like to define my work as documentary, not documentary. For me, this is such a small come si dice, label.
It's a fine line. Yeah, it's
line.
a limiting label.
And for me, from my first film up to this one, is always a challenge. You know, yes, my film are documentary, but I like to use constantly the language of cinema, and experimenting, finding new way always of telling the story. And for me, it's so important to subtract information, to take out off information constantly on my work. That's why I say the audience, when there are this moment of pause, of silence in the film, has to interact constantly with the material and making their own journey. I would like always, tonight here there were more, how many people? Maybe 100 and...
It was about 180.
180 people tonight. Yeah. And I would like that there's, in this room, there are coming 180 interpretation of the film. Each of you brought your own life, your own experience, your own past into that, and become a dialogues. And here where I believe strongly that the film becomes political. When you leave the audience that freedom of interacting and creating their own story. I can go so far on that when I was in Chicago, the festival, there was a journalist that he told me, and those tunnels that are there, about the terrorists. I said, what the terrorists? No, there's no terrorists in the film. Yeah, they build the tunnel, the terrorists. But why we don't see them anymore, the terrorists? And it was fantastic. I said, well, maybe in the morning you saw news of Gaza, and you brought that things with you in my film, which I think is wonderful, that you can open up in so many different things. And then he was apologizing. He said, are you offended? No, I'm not offended at all. I think it's great that the film, you can bring even Gaza in my film, which is beautiful. So to open up a constantly element of interaction with the audience, and this for me what cinema is, what documentary has to be. If we lose that element of experiment, of finding constantly a new language, we are gonna die, then becomes like a work of algorithm, and that's the end of cinema.
I think that following up with this, the film is very much a sense of place and the characters, and you get the city in ways that no other filmmakers have shown it to us. At the same time, it excuse me? Just don't even show me that. No, it's because a sign that said 5 minutes. We just started, so don't worry. But thank you.
I can talk very fast.
No, but but the film transcends all that. And for example, in this old relationship with the, with the earthquake and the potential of this catastrophe that is looming over these residents, there is a more universal sense of frailty, and of trepidation about the present.
Yes, because that's what I love, that sentence at the beginning where it says, the Vesuvio builds all the clouds of the world, because I think that Naples is a city that is contemporary of the future, is a city that lives a perfect future, which is a very incredible concept, philosophical concept, the perfect future that nobody uses anymore. It's a beautiful concept. So that the present is towards constantly this hypothetical future, this past, the present thing. So there are all these elements that they constantly overlap. And sorry, the question?
Question was about the frailty and yeah.
And that's when Naples becomes universal for me. With this sense, this fragility, this city that lives since 2,000 years between two active volcanoes, which the Campi Flegrei is one of the worst, is like the one in California. And when I was asking to the scientists there, I say, what's this? Gianfranco, it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, it's when this is going to happen. And so Naples lives in this territory of between these two volcanoes like since 2,000 years. So it's like a contemporary Pompeii. But the beautiful things about Naples is nobody ever asks when the disaster is going to happen. And this is how we go on the concept of the perfect future, but why we didn't realize that the catastrophe is already happened. And this, I think, is a universal feeling. We live now in a moment of very fragility of this world. The fear, it's a transversal element, and the cause of fear can be political, can be a war, can be things, can be nature. But at the result, that feeling is the same, is a universal feeling. So the fear, that sense of fear that Naples always has, and that the inhabitants are able to transform that in something else, it's a universal feeling, and that's what I think Naples becomes almost like a laboratory of the future, in that sense. And it is a city that has a universal appealing and universal sense.
Raise your hand if you have a question.
And the film probably what is about the fragility of our so-called civilization or so-called culture. So at the end of the film, when we see those statues underwater, and that was an empire, it was a thing. Is there still hope? Are we going to end up like this? But the real question we have to ask ourselves is like, what we going to leave,
There's one question here.
She has it. I just want to thank you so much. This wasn't just a film. This was a work of art. It's a masterpiece. Your use of devices, for example, hearing the click-clack of the horses before you see the horses, and the stillness of the train with everything moving beside the train. And it almost reminds me of the film Woman of the Dunes. I don't know if you know it, by Shigehara. It was made in 1947.
Sorry.
And the black and white enhanced all the texture of the film, so much texture. I could go on and on.
Well, if you have a question, it would be better. I don't mean to be.
Question. Thank you.
Well, I can come in on that. The black and white choice, it was a very important choice for me. I don't write things much. I just write you read my first idea of the thing, which is very abstract, and then becomes this journey where I discover things. But what I was very sure at the beginning was the choice of black and white, because it was a narrative choice. I had to learn looking at things in black and white. And black and white, for me, more than transforming the reality, it was a choice of the moment you shoot, reality becomes archive immediately. And in that sense, that helped me to create that sense of suspended time, constantly, like the music did. We can talk about that, which was a very important element in the film. And still, she gave up the 5 minutes. Sorry.
Well, no, I didn't mean to be rude, but we're going to go a little later.
I apologize. And so the choice of the black and white was a narrative choice. And I had also this urgency to use the archival footage, but I didn't know how to use the archival footage. I didn't want to use the archival footage as a counterpoint on the film. Like usually, we have images going, and then boom, archival coming, and then images going, and then archival coming. I wanted to create a dramaturgy in this archival. And when I discovered near Titi, the teacher, Titi's been there for 2,000 years, by the way. He never moved from the Roman. That's just yeah. Because some people say, how old is Titi? It's 2,000 years. Why he does that? Because, it's important, cultural things. It's an important thing. So anyhow, the important thing for me was like to create a dramaturgy on the archival footage. And when I discovered this cinema, for me was I went inside this cinema, which used to be evocative of a collective experience of people going there in the 60s, the 70s. Cinema was the only entertainment possible, and Toro Annunziato, where I shot most of the film, where even the sheep comes bringing grain like the Roman used to do, the Japanese dog. So there's all these overlapping stories. And then I discovered this cinema. And I went inside, and of course, I didn't project this because it was impossible to project this film inside because this place was falling apart. It was very dangerous. I would have to spend there like 2 weeks in order to be able to project things, make the light. But suddenly, when I went there was this lighting coming from the open side, the sun, that looks like a projector. So that things you see there is not an effect, it's real. And so I had this element that the projector is still there. And I was imagining this screen projecting, returning us the memory of the screen, And then again, this film, it is about memories, about holding memories, about the past, with bringing the memory constantly up. And that's when I decided that this room would have become the story of the archival and the story of a theater that doesn't exist anymore. And the importance somehow that still this screen can hold forever memory, like Pompeii does it in this archaeological site, the past. The volcano that once destroyed was also able to preserve the memory of the past. And when they found out that under Naples there was another civilization, everything was intact there. They could find incredible painting. That's why the prosecutor came very strongly inside the film. So it's incredible that a film that was not written, then by going there and spending 4 years, all the story that I fall in love with, they almost came to me, and they all made sense. Even the Japanese, I met the Japanese when I was in Japan doing a promotion for my film. I did a master class at New York University, Tokyo University, and they asked me what film. Well, I'm starting this film in Naples, near Pompeii. We have a group of archaeologists working there. Archaeologists there, yeah, really. Yeah, you should go to visit them. And I go in this place. It's like this samurai working for 22 years in this excavation of this villa, and they're like the detective of time. And then I'm start filming them. And then the professor talking to the students talk about the grain arriving, and I was filming also the ship already from Syria coming, so from a war bringing the war there, this Ukrainian grain that goes to Naples to do the recipe that the kids has and to make the pizza and to give food and to give things. So there's so many layers that reality is constantly bringing to us, and that's. I keep saying this is the beauty of documentary, of making film, and not forget the reality. If we start writing things at the table, then things lose, because we are imposing ourselves to the world. We are start looking and judging the world. But when you go in a space open and then to let the place talking to you and holding those things that is there, and then you are able to make a film which is against artificial intelligence, because no one could write a film like that. Even myself, I cannot write. Nobody can write. I could also film. I could only film and wait that reality somehow it brings you to something which is beyond any expectation. That's the beauty for me of documentary. And I have to thank my producer that allowed me to spend 4 years in a place without pushing me to give a final result there. And this is very rare.
I think there was a question here. Yeah, hold on. She's getting you the mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I identified 3 thematic strands here, and I wanted to ask you about the third one. The first 2 you have already kind of mentioned. One was the mashup of history and all we can see from the different periods. The second is the fragility, the whole under the clouds, beneath the clouds as a metaphor. We live beneath a cloud, and we don't know when something's going to blow up. But the third one kind of crystallized for me when the woman is giving the tour of the mystery room, and she says, "These objects."
That's the biggest museum in the world. The man. He is the treasure of really Roman, Greek things. Everything is there in that place. And that's the only scene I shot in Naples City.
But she uses the phrase, these things are robbed of their context. And that, for me, was an aha moment, because the movie shows so many things that are robbed of their context, from the Japanese archaeologists to the Syrian grain handlers. And my thought was that context was a metaphor for the way that you shot the film, giving viewers so few clues as to what was going on. For me, it was a little frustrating, I have to say, because I wanted a little bit more storytelling and more characters to hold on to. But I was wondering, my question is about this context question and whether I'm reading your intention properly.
Yes, because when I met Maria, the man, she's one of the head researcher and archaeologists there, and she's been working there for 30 years. And she was showing me the whole museum, and I didn't know how to film, I didn't know. And then suddenly one day she brought me down there with this torch. And that's where I understand that, this search, this illumination of this door from the past. And she started talking, incredible. We created very strong. That's for me the time that I spend without filming is more important than when I take out the camera. When I take out the camera, I hate that moment, because that moment changed me and changed the person that is in front of the camera, and I never know what's happening there. But I created this very strong relationship with Maria, and then when she was talking, then one day she went down with the new stages, with the person, and then I said, okay, she has someone to talk about what she talked to me, and then I start filming her there. And for me, that was one of the first scene that I was shooting. And for me, in that moment, I realized that was the core of the film. Everything she's saying there is like what the film is about, or what the film would be about. the suspended time, the fact that all this is coming from an excavation, the things, the relationship he had with the photographer, that when they find that statues there. And so I start following her. But again, all the people that I've been filming, I never did it in 1 week. It's all been spread in 3 years, 4 years time. And this allowed you to create a very strong relationship and never tell people what to say, but somehow be ready to be there when they're ready to talk in front of the camera and when I'm ready to film. Because for me, it's a very fragile moment as a filmmaker. I really hate to film.
But
It's
how
something
would you
very painful.
How would you summarize your central message, I guess, is the...
About the film?
Yeah.
I don't like to have messages in my film because I like to have 150 messages of my film. I like that's why I work on subtraction. My biggest things is we live in a world where we have so much information. A lot of film, I call them like Wikipedia format of visual Wikipedia. You know, information, or like complaining. There's someone complaining, someone explaining why that people is complaining, or like all this. And for me, what is important is like to take out information. It's like my ideal things is like my favorite artist is Giacometti. Giacometti used to have this incredible thing of taking out how much I can take out from these statues before it collapses. And for me, every film I do is like, how much can I take out information before become frustrating of indulgent or things? So I don't like to have a message. When I finish a film, I never know which film I did. But I know that was an important itinerary that I have to do. And finally, there's something that is there. I hate the first, when I was in Venice, the first interview that I have to say about the film, I don't know what to say. Then you start reading things, people talking, and then they start creating, okay, and then all this information that you get through the people become mine also. And then I'm able to talk about the film because I collect all this information that also are part of me, because are part of the film. But when I start to do my first interview, I never know what to say because I don't know what the film is about exactly. I don't know how to express all that. But I know that in this journey I did, in these 2 hours, there is something important that I would like each person to have a different idea of what is the film. And this, for me, that's what is filmmaking. It's like, I'm not a poet, but I like to use the structure of poetry and not the structure of an essay. And what is important in a poem is the space between words. And for me, what is important in my editing is the space between storytelling. Is that space that you as an audience has to have the braveness of cover. What I'm not able to say, you were able to tell me what was that space that I left for you, for the audience. And that's become a dialogue, which is fundamental for me. And so I don't like to make film up with a message. For me, if someone asks me, what is your film about? I can say in 3 words, it's about time, it's about stratification, it's about Naples, it's about giving to Naples the complexity of what Naples is, and it's about the fragility of our civilization. Something like that. But does it make sense? No, doesn't make any sense. Would you go to see a film like that? No, you wouldn't go to see a film with that kind of synopsis, you know? And then you have a different idea of what is this film, and each of you has that. And that's what I love about making film in this way, because it means experimenting with language and leaving that space. And that's where I feel that the film is political. Framing is political. For me, it's more important not what is in the frame, but what is out of frame. Ghirri, he's one of my favorite photographers, used to say that it's not important what you see in my picture, but it's more important what you left out of the picture. And for me, that's why I like to shoot with a tripod, with a camera fixed, because in that frame has to contain also what you don't see. And Naples is an immense off-screen, because what you see, it contains also what is not there. And that's what the film wants to be. You know, in every frame there's more.
Gianfranco, I hate to say, but we're going to leave a lot of things out of the frame because you have a car, and there is another screening. So I don't mean, but we have to.
Okay.
We have to finish here.
Well, thank you so much.